This is Captain Perry McLean, who you've already seen in a few other episodes. And if you're like me, you might have noticed how cool and laid back and mellow this guy is. He kind of reminds me of a little bit of Andy Griffith mixed with Matthew McConaughey.
All right.
And like Captain Melissa, he's got a really cool backstory that's equally compelling in its own way. Now, Perry's been sailing for a little while now. Doesn't have quite the pedigree that Captain Melissa has, but he's garnered quite a bit of experience under his belt, and he also has his 100-ton master's license as well. But when you hear his story, hopefully you'll take away some inspiration to find your own spirit of adventure, and maybe say to yourself, today's the day we sail away. Now Perry, he's a good old country boy from Kentucky, and he's also quite the storyteller. In fact, he's got a little one to share with you right now.
I can tell you about the time I wrestled an alligator. Well, it was back around Mother's Day. It was back when I was still trucking, and my dad used to truck as well. And we used to run down to Louisiana quite a bit, and you could always see a lot of gators down there swimming around. Well, Mom wanted a pair of alligator shoes for Mother's Day, and me and Dad were going to get her some. But after pricing some alligator shoes down there, we quickly realized, that wasn't for us. We decided, we can stop down there in the swamp and eliminate the middleman, so to speak. And those gators, they just kind of float out there, and they really don't bother anybody. So we picked out one we thought would be just the right size. Well, I don't know how familiar you are with alligators, but they can clamp down and bite through a 4x4, but all their muscles are for closing their mouth. They don't have any muscles for opening. So you can take and hold them by the mouth and they can't bite you. So what we done, we took a tarp strap off one of those trucks and we waded out there about waist deep water, eased up to one of them gators, and we hooked that tarp strap on his mouth. The fight was on. That thing rolled. Me and Dad fought, kicked. They got some pretty nice claws. One of them clawed and cut Dad's leg, like 34, 38 stitches, something like that. Just missed the big vein there, so he didn't bleed a lot. But after, I don't know how long, it seemed like forever. And we finally got that gator drug up on shore and got it tired out. And we rolled it over and the damn thing was barefooted.
I can't explain it, but some people are just born for adventure. They hear the calling, and they're compelled to get off the couch and see what's around the corner or over that horizon. I'm going on this quest to prove that the heart of history's greatest explorers and adventurers is alive and well today. This is your invitation to
escape from reality. We finally reached the big 5-0. It's official. I'm old now. Gotta sit down. Kids, get off my grass!
Before I ever started doing this, I've been in trucking one way or another for about the last 35 years. It's something I never really wanted to do, just kind of fell into that profession. Never did like it, but I was always good at it. I worked with Mercer Transportation for about 15 years, something like that, in different aspects. Driving a truck, having it leased onto them, owning my own. Running a terminal farm for several years, and then back into the transportation side of it. I'd done that, and then I'd started my own company with my own rights and authority doing heavy haul equipment, big dozers, excavators, cranes, things of that nature. And that's kind of where I excelled. A few years ago, I just decided life is way too short not to pursue your dreams. We all know a lot of people that had dreams that wanted to go do something, sailing or whatever that is, and they failed to pursue those dreams and then up and passed away way too early. It's hard to go ahead and take that big step and do it. And then I was driving down the road with a big piece of equipment on and heard this noise, and about 1 second later the engine exploded. Of course, that's going to cost a lot of money to replace because it wasn't a repair. You're going to have to completely replace the whole thing. And I'm like, there's never a better time than right now. So I kind of made a plan to take off and enjoy the rest of my life on a sailboat, doing different things in the Caribbean, different places. No exact place in mind, just somewhere in the Caribbean. I'd been to the Bahamas before. I'd bought a sailboat back in '99, sailed over there. Back in 2003, I took a year-long adventure and left Kentucky, down the Tombigbee Waterway, through Mobile, Alabama, and went over to the Bahamas and back. Took a full year doing that, so I'd always wanted to do that again. So I bought an old boat up in Kentucky that somebody had started the same thing with, and then they had passed away. Boat sat in the marina for about 20 years before I purchased it. And I'd done just enough work on that to make it livable. Came through Key West, Florida back in February of 2018 and planned on just being here a few weeks and then leaving. And it ended up I hung around and kept hanging around. Then took a few jobs around here. So now I've been here for about 8 months. Ended up meeting Brad through some mutual friends. Came out on Aria.
We got lobsters. We got 1, 2, 3 nice sized lobsters here today. Check out the big one.
Really enjoyed it. He was asking what we could do with it. As I've met him and learned more about him, he's a dreamer. He's got dreams, things he wants to pursue, and I just told him that I would love to be part of this adventure and come along. When I first met Brad, I didn't exactly know what to think of him first. And then the more I got to know him and the more he's telling me these stories about what he done, and I'm like, yeah, right. Then he got showing me the actual videos of things he's done, the projects he's done, things that have made it. I'm like, this guy's pretty cool.
Your support is putting wind in our sails so that you can share these adventures with you.
You can ask anybody in Key West. If you don't have 2 or 3 jobs, you're probably not going to make it down here. And when I first come down and was just hanging out and looking around, I thought that was crazy for everybody to have 2 or 3 jobs. But then when you go to work, try to put some money back to finish out your boat or do things like that, it's pretty obvious that, yes, you need 2 or 3 jobs. One job will barely pay the bills. The next job, you can kind of get a little bit of spending money. And it's one of those deals that for whatever reason, nobody wants to hire you full time to work 5 or 6 days a week. They want to hire you for 2 days or 3 days or something like that. So it leaves you a lot of free time and looking around for things to do. And I don't know about everybody else, but I just get kind of bored doing that. And I've always been one of these people that I hate to turn down work. In the trucking industry, you know, we had a saying, you know, you better haul it while it's there because there's going to come a time when there's nothing to haul. So I've kind of got myself caught up in 3 jobs right now, and each one of them are part-time, but I hate to say no. So if I have somebody call and go, hey, can you do this on this day? And that day's open, I obviously go ahead and take that work. Right now I'm working part-time as captain on a few different boats. I work for Sunset Water Sports, driving their 65-foot catamaran snorkeling boat, Sandy Cat. It's a lot of fun. It's one of those deals, they give me a lot of freedom. They don't harass me a lot. They let me take people out to the reef. I get to pick which reef we want to go to. A lot of that's dependent on weather. A lot of it's just which reef I feel like going to for the day. They let me get the kids up and put the captain's hat on them and let them drive, and that is a blast right there. Especially when you got a lot of kids on the boat and they want to play nice and take turns driving. I've got a captain's hat that I let them wear. So it's one of those deals, if you want to drive, you have to steal the hat from the person that's driving. And that's really a lot of fun when you got a cute little kid driving, an adult comes up that wants to drive, but they don't want to steal the hat from that little kid that's driving. I know one deal in particular, I had this boy driving, about 10, 11 years old, sitting up on the stool, driving the boat, doing a great job. And this lady come up that wanted to drive, and I'm like, you got to steal his hat. You're probably going to make him cry. And I'll never forget her response. She said, I'm a school teacher. I make little boys cry every day. And she just reached out and snatched it off his head. It was priceless. You had to have been there for that. But I do that as well as I drive a party fishing boat that takes up to 40 people out. It's 57 foot long, called the Gulfstream 4. We go out just past the reefs out there to what we call the bar and do bottom fishing. One of the perks of that job is a lot of time people will come in and for whatever reason they just wanted to go fishing, they didn't particularly care to have the fish. So they'll give them to me or anybody else and we get to take them home with us, cook them, or take them to one of the local restaurants. So it's pretty cool down here. And then I work part-time on Aria with Brad, looking for that to turn into a bigger deal than part-time, obviously, at some point. Key West is such a magical place that I'm not really in a hurry to leave here, but at some point I do see myself moving on. You know, you always fire the engine up to get out of port and away from everything, and then you get those sails up, and when the wind takes over and you reach over and flip that switch and turn the engines off, there's no sound other than the water coming by the hull, a little bit of wind, you can hear the birds, you can talk without having to talk loud. It's just magical. There's something about getting from point A to point B using just nature. The wind, the currents, you know, making it that far with no fuel. Pretty magical thing to do.
Dreams. We all have them, but when you start dreaming during the day, sometimes these daydreams, you can manifest them into reality. And Perry is the perfect example of throwing caution to the wind, casting off the lines, and seeking that horizon. So that's where we clicked. And I don't know how long I'm going to be next to Perry, but the things I learned while hanging out with Perry, those lessons are going to last a lifetime. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.
Escape from reality.